Hey guys, Sneaky Snake here, Brothers in Arms, World of Warships. And today's video, we're going to take a look at a nice carry that I had in the Atago, the premium Tier 8 Japanese heavy cruiser. I'm divisioned up with my buddies Puddin and Mega, and they're playing in the Bismarck and Akazuki respectively, the Tier 8 German BB and Japanese destroyer. And we're playing some standard battle here on the map 2 Brothers. For my captain skills, I have Priority Target, Direction Center for Catapult Fighter, Expert Marksman, Adrenaline Rush, Basics of Survivability, Superintendent, Demo Expert, and Concealment Expert. And for my equipment, I have Main Armaments Mod 1, Damage Control 1, Aiming Systems Mod 1, Steering Gears, and Concealment. So the Atago here in World of Warships. What do you need to know about this premium Tier 8 Japanese heavy cruiser? Well, it's a ship that has been in the game for a very, very long time. I started playing World of Warships back in January of 2016. Can't believe that it's about 2.5 years ago now. And if I'm not mistaken, the Atago was in the game at that point. I don't recall what patch. I mean, that was a long, long time ago, before we even did YouTube here with this game. So I don't remember, but the Atago is honestly one of the better premium cruisers in the game that you can buy. It has all of the strengths of the Japanese cruiser line. You know, they're kind of stealthy assassins that like to operate independently, and they can get into most 1v1 fights versus other cruisers, and they should come out on top. And you just have so many tools at your disposal, not to mention the fact that you are one of the few Tier 8 cruisers that has a heal to be able to deal damage and win games for your team. The skinny on the Atago, 40,100 hit points is pretty good. The armor is rather poor, though. Your bow and stern armor is not able to stand up to 15-inch shellfire, so pretty much any BB looks at you the wrong way, and you're going to be taking some damage. The DPM on your guns is very poor for a Tier 8 cruiser with 2 or 3 millimeters, and the reload is very long. However, you do get 10 guns, and it is balanced by the fact that the high explosive shells have very nice alpha damage for 8-inch guns, and you also have a very nice fire chance as well. So this thing is very adept at lighting fires. It is very adept at burning down battleships. And if you're within 10 kilometers, you can still take use of the armor-piercing shot. Unfortunately, Japanese 8-inch AP is not the best in the game, with the obvious exception being the Zhao. But all of the cruisers that you have from Tier 5 through Tier 9, you really do have to get very close to the enemy to be able to make use of them. And you can see right there, just over 16 seconds on the reload with these 10 guns. Again, this is not a cruiser that's going to scare anyone with its DPM. And you're also going to see here, at this beginning part of the game, I'm going to make use of the armor-piercing shot. Like I said, about 10 kilometers and under is where you're going to be able to deal some pretty decent damage with the AP. The enemy Atlanta, at 10 kilometers away, showing a little bit too much broadside, and there we go. Double Citadel, 4 penetrations, 4 overpens, I should say, 11,000 damage on the opening volley, and now I'm going to keep the armor-piercing shot loaded and send one more salvo downrange at him. And, you know, with the 16-second reload, just a little bit over, it's very difficult to... it's very difficult, and 8,700 on the follow-up salvo. It's very difficult to know when to switch between the armor-piercing shot and the high explosive because, you know, other Tier 8 cruisers like the Charles Martel have a 10-second reload. The Admiral Hipper got its reload reduced to, I think, 12 seconds. The Baltimore at Tier 8 now, I'm pretty sure you can get that down to 10 seconds as well. So this thing is never going to win a DPM fight, so you have to be able to strike from the shadows. You need to be able to utilize your good alpha damage on your HE, and if you are at close range, getting a nice flat broadside, because anything other than a nice flat broadside on most other cruisers, the Atago's AP is not going to get you any citadels. Again, that Atlanta is kind of the exception because it has so little armor to begin with. Anyway, the Atago gets 10-kilometer torpedoes as well. You get 2 launchers on each side of the ship, so you can drop a total of 8 torpedoes on port and starboard. And it's honestly really nice because, you know, Japanese cruiser torpedoes are probably the best cruiser torpedoes in the game. They have the great range. You can stealth fire with them. They have pretty good damage, decent speed at 62 knots. They are, very nice tools to use both in the offense and in the defense. However, where the Atago really shines is its maneuverability and its concealment. 9.1 kilometer concealment when fully spec'd for concealment is honestly ridiculous. The only cruiser at Tier 8 that has better is the Edinburgh, and that's strictly a technicality because the Edinburgh's detection is 9 kilometers, vice 9.1 on this thing. So, if so facto, you have the best cruiser concealment at Tier 8 because 100 meters just, it doesn't matter. In game, in actual combat, it doesn't matter. And then, you know, since it's a Japanese heavy cruiser, you have great rudder shift, you have great turning radius. This is a ship that is very nimble. It is able to respond to commands to shift the rudder very quickly, and it makes it very difficult to hit at ranges of, say, 12 kilometers and on. From battleships, cruisers, destroyers, you name it, it is a very nimble ship. So that's the skinny on the Atago. Now in the gameplay, it's 417 to 346. We've killed one of the enemy ships. You can see that there is something in our base that's kept it for about a quarter of the way so far. So at the moment, you can see my buddy Mega in the Bismarck and Putin in the Akazuki, or whatever that is. I think, no, I'm sorry, Mega's in the Akazuki. They're both heading back to the base to deal with it. So I'm going to be, out here trying to defend this western side of the map kind of alone, at least from the sense of I don't have my division mates to help me out. So I'm going to have to use all of the tools that the Atago gives you and all of my skills as a cruiser player to keep this side from folding. You can see I still have a couple other friendly ships that are going to be able to help. The Gajda, however, has completely overextended, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Edinburgh's hydroacoustic is picking him up, because he's still taking damage inside of the smokescreen. And any second now, there we go. My buddy in the Gajda kicks the bucket. So now I am the quote-unquote destroyer for my team over here, but luckily all of the enemy ships that are over here on this side of the map are also bigger than destroyers, so I am going to be able to hopefully control the pace of this combat over here. I decided to dump my first salvo of torpedoes, my starboard side, into that smoke screen that's over there. You never know. Maybe the Edinburgh wants to go inside the smoke screen to use it for some concealment. You also saw there, I get my third fire set of the game with the high explosive shot that I was shooting downrange at the enemy Colorado. And I've virtually lost no hit points over here so far, and there's quite a few enemy ships that are hurting, so, I'm still in a nice advantage right here. Again, this is a ship that, at least when you're top tier, and even in tier 10 games, you can really be in control because your concealment is just oh so good. Now, my buddy in the Ashitaka does get the kill secure on the enemy Colorado. He was only at 1,000 hit points, but nevertheless, that tier 7 American BB is taken care of. So at the moment, there's myself, an Ashitaka, and a Colorado trying to deal with a Hipper, an Atago, an Edinburgh, and another enemy Colorado that is just off to our northeast. So we're still outnumbered here, and you can see that my buddy in the Ashitaka is taking quite a bit of shell fire. So he's getting ready to turn full broadside because he's trying to get away. What I'm trying to do is take a little bit of pressure off of him. I'm trying to convince these enemy ships that my broadside is much more valuable than his, but they're not taking the bait. You can see that he's quite a bit out of position, and the Ashitaka doesn't really have very good concealment for that matter, so he is still taking quite a bit of damage from those guys. But at the very least, getting more shells going downrange at the enemy Atago, and I get a very nice hit right there as I accidentally run into my Colorado buddy. It's funny. I do that so much in game, and I get poked at quite a bit from people. I usually put in chat, hey man, I'm sorry I didn't see you, but I guess right here I was in tryhard mode, so I really wasn't thinking about it. My follow-on salvo, regardless, lights another fire on the enemy Atago, so back-to-back salvos getting fires. He obviously used his damage control for the first one, and you can see here that, just because you don't have the best cruiser DPM doesn't mean that you still can't get, nice salvo after salvo after salvo to where, we're about 8 minutes into the game and I've racked up about 63,000 points of damage, which quite frankly is not a bad number for this ship, but there's still certainly more that needs to be done. Now, you can see that the Edinburgh was last reported going due north in B3. Colorado's turning around, the Admiral Hipper is turning around, so I'm figuring to myself, you know what, I think I'm getting a little bit too deep in here. I really don't want to go north of the F line, so I'm going to turn around right here and stay a little bit closer to my friendly battleships, because as I light another fire on the Atago and get another 4K salvo, one of the big things that Japanese cruiser players, it's probably the most important thing to know, and it really comes with the territory because you have such good concealment, is knowing when to not overextend. Because, again, having 9.1 kilometer concealment on this bad boy, it allows you to do so much. I can't stress enough how important the concealment game is, especially to cruisers. And, stretching yourself too far forward, you don't have the armor. Yes, you have a heal, but you don't have the armor to really tank many AP rounds, especially from battleships. And you can really quickly get yourself into a situation where your heal is not going to be able to bail you out in this ship. So, you can see I do have a fire burning, but I'm using my repair to try and counteract the damage that I'm taking. And you can see that this enemy Atago that's trying to rush me is definitely out of position. He's only 13 kilometers away. He is using his heal as well. He's got a little bit more than 3k hit points, but you can see that he's now straying a little bit too close. And not only am I able to get some good shots into him, my buddy in the Colorado is doing the same exact thing too. So it's only a matter of time on who is going to get this kill. I'm not sure where this guy is pushing in, and this is a scenario where, as an Atago, if I lost that many hit points, I would have turned away, stayed concealed for a couple minutes, used one, if not two of my heals to get back as many hit points as I can before trying to re-engage with the enemy. And again, this guy right here, I can tell that he's a pretty new player because he's just doing it all wrong. And it doesn't help that his accuracy has been pretty shoddy too. So I'm going to put the gentleman out of his misery as I get a 3k salvo. And I take care of my first kill of the game on that Tier 8 Japanese heavy cruiser, the Atago. And at this point, it's 402 to 427. We've lost 4. The enemy team has lost 4. You can see that my friends have kind of grouped up near our cap as the enemy team with a few battleships and a destroyer trying to push around on the eastern side of the map. But now we've turned a 4 versus 3 into a 3 versus 3. Now, something to note, you can see that there's a hipper on our team that is way out of position down on the J4 grid square. You might be wondering, why is that the case? Well, if you remember, from very early on in the game, there was that enemy destroyer that decided to get onto our cap. Well, unfortunately, he wasn't killed. So, at this point, Puddin was like, hey man, I have no idea where that Ognavoy is. And I really wasn't paying attention too much in chat, but apparently the hipper was like, hey guys, you can see right there, our cruiser at G4 needed to cut off. And I wasn't paying attention to this at the time, but apparently the Ognavoy is in our backfield. And even though I'm not spotted right now, he is to my southwest. And I really wasn't paying any attention to it because, you know, these enemy ships that are coming in is going to give me some big problems here. The hipper comes around the corner at 10 kilometers, and then there we go. The Edinburgh shows himself at about 9 kilometers as well. And this is a situation where the Atago, it just is unrivaled in its ability to do this. This is the Atago in its natural environment. I got 2 enemy heavy cruisers and a battleship that are close by. So I immediately turn away, drop all of my torpedoes at the enemy hipper, and I'm trying to dodge some shells here. And you can see here, even at 9 kilometers, being able to dodge is pretty easy in this thing. I do have the armor-piercing shot loaded because the range is under 10 kilometers, which is, you know, the golden zone, so to speak. And you can see, once again, just shifting the rudder around, dodging Edinburgh shells from 8 kilometers, which is really nice. And now I got the armor-piercing shot loaded for a full broadside salvo. The shells are going down range. Before the shells get there, one torpedo hits the hipper right in the midsection, and then I do about a 9.5k salvo there on the Edinburgh. So immediately, the hipper gets hit for about 2/3 of his remaining hit points by my torpedo, and the Edinburgh takes a very meaty armor-piercing salvo. And just like that, a 2 versus 1 right there was, or a 2 versus 2, both of those cruisers got immediately pushed away. And then it's at this point that I realized, oh my god, there's an Ognavoy that's 6 kilometers away from me. So now, with the the high explosive being loaded, I'm going to go deal with that guy. But the Atago's ability to be able to use its AP at below 10 kilometers and also turn quick enough to drop all of its torpedoes, well, this is a ship you just don't want to chase after, as I pick up the Confederate with a 5k salvo on the Ognavoy. You just don't want to rush this guy. The torpedoes are deadly. It maneuvers so nicely. The armor-piercing shells do work at those shorter ranges. And you saw, the Edinburgh and the hipper just, there was nothing that they could do. Even if they would have focus fired me, even if they would have, you know, concentrated their push at the same time, just being able to utilize the torpedoes and the stealth and all of that stuff on the ship immediately turned that push away. And my Colorado was in a little bit of danger because those ships could have rushed him down, but nevertheless, I was able to take care of business, which was nice. The next broadside on the Ognavoy, you can see the power of the high explosive. 8 out of the 10 shells hit for 7,400 damage as I crack 123k for the course of the game. My secondary actually manages to light the Ognavoy on fire, and I was thinking here of waiting to see if my secondaries could finish the job, but I decided not to do that. And I pick up my second kill of the game on that Tier 8 Soviet destroyer. And now, all of a sudden, the enemy team has been vanquished. What was an 8v8 in total is now a 7 versus 4, as we have managed to get quite a few kills. I've gotten 2 kills in the preceding time. My buddy Mega over there in the Akazuki and Puddin have done a fantastic job of holding off that push on the east side. So at this point, the game is in the bag, and now it's just trying to see if there's any more damage that can be farmed. And later on in the replay, you're going to get another great example of me utilizing the torpedoes, me utilizing the excellent maneuverability to put myself into a position where I'm dropping walls of torpedoes at advancing ships. And, you know, one other thing to note is Japanese heavy cruisers as a whole they turn so nicely, with the exception of the Zhao, and that's only by a technicality because its turning radius is a little bit bigger than other Japanese cruisers are. But these things are able to, in the time that it takes for about 30 seconds to pass, which is generally about the reload of a high-tier battleship before you factor in adrenaline rush and stuff, if you're angled to them at about 30 degrees and they shoot at you, start turning. Because by the time that they're reloaded, you're actually able to do an entire half turn so that you can turn broadside enough to drop your torpedoes and then continue your turn to when they're reloaded, they're going to be shooting at your aft end. And you're going to see this exact example here coming up in the next minute or so. So I'm moving into position. Gonna definitely try to farm down this Colorado. I still have 37,000 hit points, so even if I take a Citadel or two, I'm still gonna be able to heal up to about 20k hit points. So I'm not really worried about my HP at the moment. And this is where cruisers, the longer that they stay alive in the game, and most importantly, the more HP that they keep at the end of the game, they're able to get into these situations where I'm gonna be putting myself one-on-one versus an enemy battleship, and it's really not that big of a deal because I do have the hit points to be able to tank. Now you can see right there, Colorado shot his A turret, and then he shot his B turret. So now I have about 25 seconds before he is reloaded. So I'm going to immediately cut my rudder to hard to port, and I'm going to drop both sets of torpedoes, all 8 metal fish going downrange. Now, conveniently, I did go concealed right there, so I could have disengaged if I wanted to, say if I took a big hit and I wanted to heal up in stealth, but I'm able to complete my entire turn so that by the time the Colorado is reloaded and ready to go again, you can see that my entire aft end is pointing at him. So with that being the case, I'm now going to continue my turn to port, and I'm getting ready to drop yet another salvo of torpedoes, sending 16 downrange, all but assures that I'm going to get at least some hits on that guy. And you can see that I'm going to be able to complete my turn once again. By the time that his forward guns are reloaded, I will be angled once again towards this guy. And it looks like one torpedo is going to strike home onto his nose. I do set a fire, and I get the flooding on him. So he is both burning and having water rush into the bow of his ship as I do pick up the high caliber. Once again, Sneaky Snake runs into a friendly teammate because that's just what I do. The next salvo hopefully will get the kill. Very unfortunately, 0 damage with a couple penetrations with the high explosive shot. And now this Colorado is going to use his heal, and with 820 hit points, my friendly Colorado takes care of the kill. Alrighty guys, taking a look now at the post-battle results. 168,000 damage dealt off of 119 penetrations, 17 overpens, 26 shatters, and 3 ricochets, and also 2 torpedoes that landed home as well. I crit 15 enemy modules. That's just the power of the high explosive that Japanese heavy cruisers have, where it really does destroy and break a lot of stuff. 2 enemy ships sunk, 11 fires, 4 citadels, and 5 cheeky secondary hits, and I also picked up Confederate and high caliber. Taking a look at the team score, I actually ended up with about 2,700 base XP. However, when you upload replays to wowsreplays.com, you can only sort by number of kills and the number of achievements that you got. So, conversely, on the other side of the map, my buddies Putin and Mega accounted for 7 enemy ships, and I accounted for 2. Really should have had the kill on the Colorado, and I probably should have had the kill on the Edinburgh as well. So we almost killed, what is that, 4, 3? So we killed 9 of the 12 enemy ships in that game. Another APOC carry, but that's what you kind of expect from our clans. So, yeah. But the Atago, still one of my favorite premium cruisers. This thing is so much fun to play. Even in Tier 10 matchmaking, you're still very powerful because you have the heal, and because you have the stealth and the rudder shift and all that great stuff. And when you get into games like this where you're almost top tier, I mean, this is a technical Tier 9 game, but, you know, pretty much everything was Tier 7 and 8. This is the kind of results that you can't expect if you know how to play these things. And, of course, it's also a great captain, trainer, and all that good stuff. So with that being said, this is your boy Sneaky Snake for Brothers in Arms World of Warships signing off. Please consider giving the video a like, commenting on it, sharing it with your friends, subscribing to the channel, whatever you decide to do. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to check out our great content. And with that being said, have a fantastic day.